This joy that I have, world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, world didn't give it to me. World didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This strength, choir, this strength that I have, join us and you know it. World didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, world didn't give it to me. World didn't give it, world can't take it away. This love, this love that I have, world didn't give it to me. Oh, this love that I have, world didn't give it to me. This love that I have, world didn't give it to me. World didn't give it, world can't take it away. This peace that I have, world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, world didn't give it to me. World didn't give it, world can't take it away. All right, bring that percussion back. This joy that I have, world didn't give it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, world didn't give it to me. World didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. One more time. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you, MR and Juan and choir and all of you here in this room, joining us online. Welcome to this beautiful, beautiful day. My name is Reverend Beth Monholland. My pronouns are she, hers, and it is my honor to serve this church, the U Church of Urbana-Champaign, alongside our Associate Minister, Reverend Sally, as the lead minister here. If you are a visitor today, and I know there's a lot of visitors with us, welcome. We are so glad you are here. Please fill out a visitor's card so we can stay connected with you. And be sure to connect with us during social hour. Today is, if you didn't know, and my beautiful Easter outfit didn't give it away. It's Easter, and we're going to have an Easter egg hunt, and there will be chocolate in the coffee hour. So we hope, whether this is your 1000th time or your first, that you grab a little joy and share it today. This congregation is a people of many ages and histories, genders, bodies, identities, and beliefs, and we are united in a commitment to our mission, which is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. We hope today that as you enter into this joyous, sacred space, you will also look around. We're a little full today, which is delightful, and notice the color-coded lanyards of your neighbors, and as always, interact with respect for people's boundaries, and also with kindness for the different needs of all the different bodies in the room. We are a people of all ages, which means there's brand new humans and not so brand new humans here. And our bodies have different needs, and so we welcome the wiggles and noises and potential distractions that little ones might bring into the service. And we invite everybody, no matter your age, to pay attention to your bodies. If you need some coloring books, as young Camden has, is that Camden Reporter? Camden, I remembered your name. Thank you. He's showing his coloring pack. But we have coloring packs for folks who need to keep their hands busy. And if you want a little more room or want to stretch your legs, you are welcome at any point in the service to go across the hall into the fellowship hall, where the service is actually being live streamed today, not just the audio. So feel free, if you need it or the little ones with you need it, to make yourself at home over there. We will have our RE classes today, so after the time for all ages, our young people who might not want to hear us drone on and on as grown-ups will, with their volunteers, get to go down to their classrooms. But in the meantime, what I would like you to do, little ones, big ones, whoever you are, is to take this moment to greet your neighbor. I'm going to ring our chime, and I know there's a lot of us, and I know you're UUs, but we are going to take just 1 minute. Find somebody near you, maybe that you don't know or that you haven't seen in a while, or that you love, and ask them how they are doing on this Easter Sunday, and I will ring the chimes to bring us back together. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Thank you all for those enthusiastic, warm greetings. Thank you, Juan, because my little ding did not get heard. I have to say, that filled my heart with joy. I loved the cacophony of sound that washed its way up here. One symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition is our flaming chalice, which we light each service as a reminder of the spark that connects us all. This morning, I've asked our new member and choir member, Robert Hartman, to light the chalice as I offer us these words. We kindle this flame as a symbol not only of our larger heritage, but as a symbol of the fire that transforms us all. On this Easter Sunday, which is also Trans Day of Visibility, we hold tenderly the hope that even in the midst of grief, of war, and uncertainty, that even in the shadow of oppressive empires, of harmful systems and unjust laws, love can and will rise from the ashes. Let this flame remind us that life is transformation and love is its fuel. Now I'm going to ask you to rise in body or spirit for our opening song, number 38, Morning Has Broken, and Janet Rovo-Barrett will serve as our hymn leader this morning.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the
For our time for all ages today, I've asked our manager of RE, Kelly Skinner, to tell you a story that you might not know, but it is a well-known story in our Eastern Orthodox Christian traditions. So Kelly is going to come on up and tell us about the miracles of Mary Magdalene.
So I would like to invite any kiddo who wants to come up and listen to the story. They can sit right here if they like. Hello. Hello. Yeah, everybody can sit down here if they want. Right here. No, we can't have a food fight. Sorry. Hello, guys. All right. So does anybody know who Mary Magdalene is? No? A little bit? Yeah. So she actually was a first century Jewish woman who liked to hang out and was part of the following of Jesus of Nazareth. And she kind of gets a little bit of a bad rap because people think that she was somebody who was a prostitute, but she wasn't. In fact, she was somebody who was very important in society, and she was also named as the first apostle or apostles to the apostle. Because she was the very first one who went and told everybody about the Easter story. And the men didn't believe her. Can you imagine that? Boo. The Easter story that Jesus had risen.
I thought it had something to do with like a God and
Not yet. We're going to talk about colorful eggs in a second. So there's lots and lots of stories and legends about this really important lady, Mary Magdalene. And just because, like, we like stories. What are some stories that you guys like? What are some movies that you guys like? Avatar: Last Airbender. What other stories do you like? It's her? Yeah, it's her turn. You like Encanto. What story? Super Mario. What story do you like? Well, what's your favorite, like, bedtime story? What's your favorite bedtime story? Dogman. So we know that those are still our favorite stories. And just like so many other stories and legends and myths, the truth of that story and that legend doesn't depend on whether it's historically true, like a newspaper, but the fact that there's truth in the story. And so it doesn't really matter whether it happened or not. It's just a great story, and it resonates with our hearts so that we want to tell it again and again and again. So this story has it that after Jesus died, and they were talking with lots of different people about his death, the good deeds that the man Jesus did, and about him coming back from the dead and proclaiming the good news. She wanted to go to Rome because Tiberius Caesar, who was the Roman king at the time, was in power. And so as the story goes, she arranged that she got to go to dinner with him. And like I said, she was kind of a VIP. And so of course, he invited her to dinner. It was like a rock star inviting an actress to dinner, kind of like that. And she had what Jewish people call chutzpah. And chutzpah is like, she's got gumption, like she's not afraid of anybody. She will speak her mind. And so she got to go to the king's palace for dinner, and she wanted to protest that the governor, Pontius Pilate, he had a miscarriage of justice. And she wanted to tell all the Roman people about the resurrection. And so she stood up to talk. And the Roman king, Caesar's sitting back, and he has a hard-boiled egg. And he's like cracking, I don't know how to crack these eggs because I don't eat them, but he's cracking the egg and peeling it. I don't want to drop it on the floor. It's a hard-boiled egg. It's going to make a mess. And Tim's going to have to clean it up, and that's not very nice. No. So he had an egg, and he was peeling the egg. And when he heard her announce that Jesus has risen from the dead and we should be listening to the good things that this man said about how our society is unjust and we should be taking care of the people who are oppressed. And he said, Jesus can no more be raised from the dead than an egg can turn red. So, and then he looked at it, and in his hand, it turned red. Yeah, well, that's what we do now, right? Yes, because we can't do that. We can't do miracles. But we recognize this story and how important it was. And so the Eastern Orthodox people actually dye red eggs every year. And their holiday where they dye red eggs is actually called Pascha. And so they recognize that really cool story with the red eggs and the miracle that happened. And so that's where we got the tradition of dyeing our eggs all different colors. So imagine if all of the Easter preachers, not just Mary Magdalene, but if all the men who were going out there and proclaiming the word and trying to start these communities all over the Roman Empire, imagine if they all had the chutzpah to be able to stand up and say, this is what I know that is right, and to believe it so strongly that something miraculous happens. Okay, so right now is the time that we actually take all the young people under 18 who don't want to sit here for the rest of the service, and we go downstairs to our religious exploration and engagement classrooms. So I invite anyone who is young in age or even young at heart to come down to our classrooms, and we do have activities today for middle schoolers and high schoolers today too. They'll be doing some photography, and it's a lot of fun. And I do want to remind any parents who, because we have an Easter egg hunt today after service, or an egg hunt, actually an Ostera egg hunt. But come down immediately after service. Don't go into fellowship hall. Come down and pick up your child, and then we'll go immediately outside.
And now we all know why we dye Easter eggs. It's all because of Mary Magdalene. I love hearing the kids still. Each week when we gather, we practice spiritual generosity by making space for all the joys and sorrows that we bring with us whenever we gather together. We begin this practice with an embodied ritual of singing a blessing song And today I'll invite folks, as you feel moved, to come forward and light a candle either here on this chalice table or at the center one in the back. And when we have finished that embodied ritual, we will speak aloud joys and sorrows that you might want to share. There are joys and sorrows cards in your pew rack, and our ushers can also bring them to you if you need. If you are joining us online or you're just here in the room and prefer electronic communication, you can send your joys and sorrows via email to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. We trust that in sharing together our joys, they are lifted up. In sharing our sorrows, the weight of them is lessened, if only for a moment. We'll begin our song, and I will invite you again as an invitation and as you feel moved to come forward and light a candle.
May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way home.
Thank you. Yes, please, if you have cards in the room, feel free to bring them up to me. I'm going to start with some joys and sorrows submitted online. Lynn Wiley and Sam Bashirs are moving, yay, to Urbana in the summer sometime. New beginnings and renewals. From Brittany Shipley, a sorrow. This week, we lost a longtime family friend, Carrie Mason. His last days were spent in comfort, end-of-life care, surrounded by loved ones. For that, we are grateful. My great-grandfather fell this week and is in bad condition. This comes after a very recent diagnosis of metastatic prostate cancer. Please keep him in your thoughts. From Beth Simpson, My heart goes to the families all around the country, to everyone's families. As a celebration. Thank you, Beth. Beth is in the room. I interpreted that, this is why the written word. So Beth shared, thank you, Beth. That was actually a joy for her family on both sides of the coast, here in the middle, and her heart is with them. Thank you. This is from Allison and Christian. We met with Maria's adoption worker this week, and we're told her adoption date will likely be this summer, which is sooner than expected. That is great. For those who couldn't hear, there was a childish yay that was utterly joyful. That should be how all of our hearts sing with good news. And from Claudia Gross. This is my 80th Easter. It is the first time I have not colored Easter eggs. Claudia, there is still time, is all I'm saying. Because I found red dye at 8 o'clock last night, so. I'm going to check our online one more time. And that is what folks wanted to share today. We know that more than what has just been shared in these cards, in the emails, we are all carrying joys and sorrows in our hearts. So for all that has not been spoken aloud, I offer a blessing. And to make space for all that we have shared and all that we are holding, I want to invite us into just a moment of silence. I'm going to ring our singing bowl, and I ask that you take a deep breath. Let yourself be fully present here in this moment with each other, and listen to the chime of that bowl as it rings, and let it take you into your heart and into your body, and may it bring to you whatever you most need this morning. I'll ring the bowl again to end our silence. I have a reading for us this morning. I have two, because I selected one earlier in the week for Trans Day of Visibility, and I love it, and I will share it, actually, for those who are in our UUCUC Member and Friends Facebook group. I'll put it there for us. But this morning, in my own preparation, a colleague shared a prayer, a blessing, for Easter and Trans Day of Visibility that said so much of what I myself am hoping to say. And so I'm doing an audible. That is my only sports-related metaphor I can ever share with you. And instead of the reading by M. Jade Kaiser, I share with you instead this from UU Minister Reverend Gretchen Haley. When Jesus declares, even death cannot hold him back, maybe what he means to say is, nothing can keep you from the life you were meant for. Closets, like tombs, are no match for the power of a person radically willing to forge their own path, proclaim their own name, transgress norms, transfuse truths, transform the elements, transfix the world in a story of love that transcends binaries and belief systems, love that calls all of our stories sacred, calls us all beloved. When the crocuses find their way through the snow and the rocks, maybe what they mean to say is, we see you. We see you transmitting light even in these darkest of days, transforming the future on our hearts, transversing borders of gender, and transitioning this world from judgment to joy. Like it's our birthright, for of course it is. For this day and this life is a gift given to us all equally, a transparent miracle inviting us all to finally be free. Easter is a tricky holiday sometimes, I think, for those of us raised in Christian traditions or Christian adjacent. There is so much in it that is about the lifting up of pain and suffering. The crucifixion itself is a central part of the story. But Easter can also be about transformation of life coming out of death, of life thriving despite conditions that wish it to end. And so for Easter today, for Trans Day of Visibility, may we all be able to claim the joy that is our birthright. We gather as a community. We have spiritual practices of generosity. We have practical financial practices of generosity. And we have many, many ways for you to be engaged in this community and to live into the mission of this congregation. Our REE programs, both for our young people and our adults, has many, many offerings. Our social action councils are thriving and doing good work here in the church and in the community. And I do hope that all of you will subscribe to our e-newsletter and take advantage of all those opportunities that are available to you each week. Kelly mentioned there is an Easter egg hunt today right after the service, so go and enjoy the joy of the children hunting for eggs. And it was like too many announcements. And pay attention to, in the coming weeks, we have some opportunities to deepen our relationship with our interfaith community. I'm a member now of the Interfaith Alliance of Champaign County, and they're having an annual Interfaith Freedom Seder coming up on April 14th. It is by invitation. They do ask that folks register, and it would be lovely if for those of you who are interested in deepening your own interfaith work, got together and said a few of us are going to go and represent Unitarian Universalism at that. Be sure, as I said, to read your e-news for more events, and I want to shift for a moment, and instead of you listening to me, I want to invite, is he ready? I see him, Chris Hanauer, who is the chair of our finance committee. He has a few announcements about our budget process and our pledge campaign. Thank you, Chris.
Good morning. As Beth said, I'm Chris Hanauer. I'm the chair of the Finance Committee, and I'm here to share the news of our pledge drive. But first, I'll start with a little story, which was that this morning I got a text from my sister, who wished me a happy Easter and said, "So what do you do with Easter, if anything?" I said, "Well, it tends to be a service about renewal in the natural world, rebirth, and things like that." And then when I came in this morning, I was reminded of that process as it works in this church, because there's a giant hole in the wall that we put there to build a nice ramp for accessibility. There are two big holes in the wall up there, which in a few weeks are going to be spewing beautiful cold air on us. For the air conditioning, and I'm just reminded of how renewal is a process that we're going through all the time, and that the generosity of this congregation has made it possible. And so I'm profoundly grateful for that. But to cut to the chase, we had a good pledge drive. We had 20 new pledges, which is great. And we raised $517,383. That's Mona's best guess as to what our realization of the pledges is going to be, which is great. However, it is $23,000 less than we raised last year. So, I mean, in the context of churches elsewhere and the fact that we just raised $160,000 in a matter of weeks, you know, it's not great news, but it's, you know, not awful news. We're doing very well. We're still a very generous congregation. The budget process is kicking off next week. The Budget Task Force is having its first meeting next week. And so this is something that we'll be factoring into our discussions. In the meantime, if you look on the back of your order of service, there's a nice QR code there that you can use if you want to, if you haven't pledged and would like to make a pledge, or if you want to increase your pledge, you know, it's always, always welcome. And I just want to be sure everyone understands that this is a shortfall, but in the broader context of the life of this church, we are a group of generous people, and we're going to be fine. So, and I'll be around after service if anyone wants to talk. Thank you.
I just need to say that I come in this room multiple times a week. I've been here watching the HVAC folks do stuff outside, and when Chris pointed out that there were 2 holes up there, it's the first time I've seen them. Just didn't even notice. So that's on me. Thank you, though. And thank you all. Thank you, every member of this congregation. Thank you, every visitor and friend, for contributing your time and your talents to the life of this church. And thank you, yes, for contributing financially. I mentioned as we started Joys and Sorrows that ritual is a practice of spiritual generosity, but we also practice generosity in many other ways. And one of those ways is to acknowledge our real interdependence with the world beyond these walls. And so on Sundays, we do collect an offering, and 50% of everything we collect on Sunday, of non-designated funds that we collect, go to an organization whose mission is aligned with our values of doing the work of justice and love in the world. This month in March, we're sharing our plate with the Midwest Access Coalition, which is a nonprofit abortion fund that helps people access safe abortions. Since their founding, they have served over 3,000 people seeking vital medical care, and in this post-Roe environment, their services are more needed than ever. You can give this morning by text through our online portal on our website, and if you're here in the room, cash or check is fine. And if you want to give directly to Midwest Access and you're doing so via check, just make that note on the check itself. But remember, half of everything we collect today goes to the operations of our church, and half will go directly to that organization. We invite you to give whatever is generous for you, and know that anything you contribute will be gratefully received. So at this time, our offering will be collected, and we have a special music, which I think is a video. Yep, the video. And so Alyssa will play that for us as the offering is received. Thank you.
And I give up forever to touch you, 'cause I know that you feel me somehow. You're the closest to heaven that I'll ever be, and I don't wanna go home right now. And all I can taste is this moment, and all I can breathe is your life. And sooner or later it's over. I just don't wanna miss you tonight. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know fight the tears that ain't coming, or the moment of truth in your lies. When everything feels like the movies, yeah, you bleed just to know you're alive. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am.
Absolutely, you can applaud that. MR, thank you. I titled today's sermon, Mary, Don't You Weep. And honestly, that is the name of an African-American spiritual that's been playing in my head as I wrote this, as I was thinking about this. Are any of you familiar with it? Many gospel groups have done it. Bruce Springsteen did it. Mary, don't you weep. Mary, don't you weep, don't mourn. Don't you know that Pharaoh's army was drowned? Oh, Mary, don't you weep. The song was about, yes, acknowledging the hardness of life, the grief that we're in the midst of, and knowing it's not the whole story. And as I said, that's a little bit about what Easter is. The whole story is more than empire, more than death and crucifixion. But it is Holy Week, right? Like it has been in the Christian traditions, in Western Christian traditions, because let's be clear, Eastern Orthodox Easter isn't for another month. So they follow a slightly different calendar. But it's Easter here, as Chris said, a time of renewal. It is the middle of the holy month of Ramadan for our Muslim neighbors, also a time of centering and reflection and, yes, renewal. And it is the middle, not the middle, Lord, no, please, we still are at the beginning, 10 or 12 days officially into the spring season. The world over is considering renewal right now, considering what is being resurrected in our hearts and in our communities. And I know, and I've said this before, it can be hard to find renewal in the face of all the world's despair. The ongoing war in Ukraine, the desolation in Gaza, the devastation in Burkina Faso, and the more than 110 active conflicts that are actively happening right now across this planet. The uncertainty of the election cycle in our own country, the ways in which the powerful and the unethical use the divides between us, not to help us appreciate each other's differences, but to make our divisions even more stark. And because it is Trans Day of Visibility, I must name it. According to the ACLU, there are currently 479 bills active in state legislatures across this country targeting LGBTQ people. And while most of those bills will actually not make it to law, the level of hate feels terrifying. And I follow the ACLU. Those numbers are up. Those numbers of those bills is up by over 50 from this time last year. And I just keep thinking, Lord, this is just so unprecedented. I had that actual thought, and then I laughed because we all kept saying that during the height of the pandemic. This is unprecedented. And I laughed not at the hate and the vitriol, but at the idea that any of this is unprecedented, because the fact is, these current events, these times we are living in, the wars, the attacks on people's rights and bodily autonomy, the attacks on civil rights, all of it is absolutely precedented in our history. In just recent history, what's happening today is tied directly to the precedent of the British colonial empire and the Nazis criminalizing homosexuality. The attacks on people's lives in our carceral state is directly tied to the thousands who were lynched during Jim Crow. None of this is unprecedented, which actually gives me hope, because others have faced and defeated these evils, and we can too. And we have many examples if we look in our country, just our country, and just at, let's say, the civil rights movement. We have many examples of people who faced evil with courage and conviction. People like Bayard Rustin and Polly Murray and Fannie Mae Hammer and Shirley Chisholm. People from our own faith tradition like Hosea Ballou and Francis Harper, who spoke out against the evils of slavery. And James Reeb and Viola Abbott, who gave their lives at Selma for civil rights. It is Easter, and the resurrection of hope is alive in the examples of those people. And it was present in that very first Easter if we take a look at history all the way back 2,000 years. Kelly mentioned in her story of Mary Magdalene that sometimes she gets conflated with an unnamed person in the Gospels. The woman who the week before Jesus was crucified came in and anointed his feet with oil and washed it with her very hair. A woman that the people in the room with Jesus at the time judged harshly, they wanted to expel her and were like, doesn't he know what she is? And Jesus offered grace to that person, because that person, the outcast of her society, was who Jesus came to serve. But that woman was actually not Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene, as Kelly said, was well known. Mary Magdalene was a well-to-do Jewish woman. She was a respected member of her society. She was known by name and named actually in all the Gospels, the ones that made it into the canon and quite a few that didn't. And while it was true that according to some of the stories, the one that comes to us in the Gospel of Luke, that Jesus and Mary encountered each other when he healed her from a very common affliction that many people had in first century Palestine. She was possessed by devils, and so Jesus cast them out. That, by the way, for those who don't know, is how people knew Jesus was a holy man, because only holy people could cure somebody of that particular illness. But in encountering Mary, in healing her of those demons that afflicted her, Mary, in her gratitude, said, I believe in you and the mission of your work to serve people like me that got outcast for a while. And so Mary took her means, the money and the influence she had, such as it was. She was still a woman in first century Palestine. In her Jewish society, she had a specific place she had to occupy, and in many public places needed to be silent. But she had enough power and influence that she said, I will serve this mission. And it was Mary and her work in following Jesus and his disciples. It was Mary's money, and it was Mary's conviction that actually made the work that any of those men did possible. And it was Mary Magdalene, along with quite a few other Marys, Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Mary, the mother of James, who kept a vigil and bore witness to the horrors of the crucifixion, of that state-sanctioned murder when all the men had fled. Those women stayed. And it was Mary with some of those women. Mary led them later when the Passover feast had ended and their grief demanded action. She led them to the tomb to give the body of their beloved friend and leader the burial rites to which he was entitled. And it was Mary who first saw and spoke to Jesus after his resurrection. The story in Luke goes that Jesus spoke to her and said, "Mary, do you know me?" And she said, "Lord." And he said, "Go and tell my people." And so it was Mary Magdalene, with a heart full of fear and uncertainty, but with burgeoning hope and purpose, who left that empty tomb and went to share the good news, who became, as Kelly told us in her story, the apostle to the apostles, spreading the word that the forces of hate and empire and greed and violence would not win. Mary was named and known. And yes, she was a woman of some means, but she was still an ordinary woman of her time. But an ordinary woman serving the needs that she saw in her community and using her voice to become a respected force. She was well known and well respected enough, as our Eastern Orthodox traditions tells us, to get an actual audience and dinner invitation with the emperor. But by late in the 2nd century, when that early gatherings of ragtag people had formed into a more organized institution, and the Christian church was no longer just a sect of Judaism, but had become its own separate organization with hierarchies and bishops and deacons and consolidation of power, that people, and let's be honest, I mean the men, decided we cannot have any more Marys. And Mary's story, Mary Magdalene's story, got relegated to a side note. She got conflated on purpose with someone who was an outcast and a sinner in order to lessen her influence on anybody who might look to her and say, "I too will speak truth to power." And so what had been a small little force of people resisting empire, resisting corruption within their own community, grew itself to become a force of oppression, silencing dissension and relegating women to a secondary place. And Mary Magdalene's story got literally thrown on a trash heap. There is a Gospel of Mary. Have any of you ever read it? A handful of folks. I'm not surprised. First of all, it didn't make it into the canon. Second of all, as I said, it literally got thrown away. You see, in 1896, in an ancient trash heap, people were excavating and they found some tossed away scrolls. And on it was a gospel in Mary's name, written in Mary's voice. And it took, because of all kinds of things like patriarchy and misogyny and the fear of letting go of power, 60 years for that piece of papyrus to get translated. And while most of it is missing, we do have a living testimony of Mary Magdalene's gospel, of Mary's words. And it stands not only as a testament to Mary Magdalene, but to all the other women leaders in the early church who were rendered invisible, dismissed, silenced, and discarded. And while Jesus' own ministry had been to the outcasts and discarded of his society, the church that was built in his name became a force and a power for that very same oppression. Here in America, I think about who are the most outcast and discarded in our day. If Jesus and Mary Magdalene were among us right now, who would they be serving? And I always think if Jesus was alive today and he showed up in 21st century America, he'd look around and he probably wouldn't be at any of our churches, y'all. But he probably would show up at a drag club and be hanging out with the black trans women. He'd be telling them that their lives are precious and holy no matter what others may say to them, no matter what the hate-filled vitriol spewing from state legislatures might say. And the Mary Magdalenes who would be supporting that ministry, making sure the message of justice and love get heard, that spirit of Mary shows up in those same black trans women. And I'll tell you the story of one of them. Cece McDonald is a black trans woman who in 2012 was attacked just for her black transness. Being black put her at the bottom of the American caste system, and being a trans woman put her at the bottom of everything. Because being a woman is bad enough, but being a trans woman means that you have rejected everything that patriarchy says is right and normal. And so Cece McDonald was out with some friends minding her own business when some folks wanted to give her trouble. And they started pushing and shoving and punching, and in defending herself, she grabbed a knife and stabbed the person who was beating her, and that person later died. And instead of saying that was an act of self-defense, the state decided to charge her with murder. And because Cece McDonald was a poor black trans woman in America, as she said, she could see how the deck was stacked against her. So she made a plea deal to serve 4 years for manslaughter. And because this is America and we refuse in so many cases to honor the dignity of people, she was sentenced to 4 years in a men's prison. She doesn't talk much about those 4 years. But those 4 years could have crushed her spirit. It would crush the spirit of anyone. But it did not crush Cece McDonald, because when she got out of prison, she said herself the dignity of who she knew she was still intact. And she said, I will not let that experience and these laws define me. You do not get to own me, and you do not get to throw my story away. You do not get to stop me from fighting so that this will never happen again. And when Cece McDonald got out of prison, instead of staying quiet, instead of staying beaten, she became an activist, fighting not just for the rights of other trans women and trans people, but fighting against the American carceral state. She's active in the prison abolition movement to this day. And 10 years ago, in 2014, the Harvey Milk LGBTQ Democratic Club awarded her their annual Bayard Rustin Civil Rights Award for her activism and leadership. People who cling to power and their limited ideas of who belongs and who benefit from making outcasts, like the Roman Empire did, like so much of our current political leadership does, will always work to destroy people like Cece McDonald, the outcasts and the transgressors. And in her defiance, in the actions of all the ordinary, marvelous, courageous, brave people all around us, I find the spirit of Mary Magdalene, and I find hope. Because when there is so much hate that is redirected all around us, we need to look and see and resurrect the hope that is also present. And not hope that is flimsy and clings to some distant future, but hope that, like Mary Magdalene, gets up in the middle of grief and goes to a tomb. Mary didn't go to that tomb because she thought Jesus would be alive. She went because she knew she had a responsibility to honor the dignity of his life, and because her own conscience called her to take action. That is the kind of hope that the spirit of Mary Magdalene can resurrect in any of us. The hope that we will get up Get up in our grief, in our anger, and go to an empty tomb. A hope that the work would not die. And she was uncertain and afraid, and Mary left that tomb not just with hope, but with purpose, because when we act, when we let hope move us into action, that is where purpose is found. And so can we, as a people of faith, as a church community, look the world honestly in the face and say, yes, I see this hate, I see this greed, I see these desperate grabs for power, I see the harm that is done to my beloveds, the harm that we sometimes do, and say we will still rise up and go to the places where the need is greatest. Can we resurrect a belief that says we are living in precedented times? But like the spirit of Mary Magdalene, like the C.C. McDonalds of the world, that we can still move together. When we speak truth to power, it will matter even if people misunderstand us, even if they misname us, even if they do indeed throw our stories away. But we can have hope that there on a trash heap, seeds are planted that will flourish and grow. And it is our responsibility on this Easter Sunday, on this Trans Day of Visibility, to resurrect that hope, to resurrect the spirit of Mary Magdalene, the spirit of justice and love. And especially on Easter, because if Easter is not the time to lift up the experiences of people, defying the loud, angry voices that support and demand state-sanctioned violence, if Easter is not the time to lift up people using their gifts to make space for more justice and love, and if Easter is not the time to speak of the spirit of Mary Magdalene and honor the lives of Black trans women who fight to remake the world, if Easter is not the time for us to listen and do, then when is? So let this be the day we resurrect hope in the face of despair, justice in the face of violence. Let us resurrect joy in the face of despair, and in the face of hope, of hate, let us always, always resurrect love. May it be so, and amen. Our closing hymn today, in the spirit of Mary Magdalene, is number 1024 in your teal hymnal. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. I'll invite Janet up.
You've got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you've got to do, oh Lord. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 Gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta sing. You gotta sing, oh Lord. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 Spirit says go. Spirit says go. Spirit says go. Spirit says go.
However the Spirit moves you today, my dear, dear people, may it also rise in you a little bit of joy. We'll extinguish our chalice with our chalice lighting words from Elizabeth Sully Jones. They're in your order of service, and they'll also be on the screen. I'll ask you to say them together. We extinguish this flame. But not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Let's take our love outside. This love that I have, feel free to leave. The world didn't give it to me. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This pride that I have, this pride that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This pride that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This pride that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This joy, one more time. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world